Welcome to my series titled If Only They Had Loved, starring the many adventures of Winnie the Pooh in the Bronze Age. Main point to make: communication and compromise is very important. I'll get more into this later at the end of the video. In this story, Christopher Robin's very best friend was a bear named Winnie the Pooh. All the simple times of when imagination and stuffed animals fueled your need for connection. This bear, Winnie the Pooh, lived under the name of Sanders. What name do you live under? Your own name or Jesus's? Just like the Pooh-Coo clock, are we obsessed with ourselves? Pooh-Coo, Pooh-Coo. Being of little brain can be hard, but being of little heart is far worse. I love Pooh Bear's little rhyme. I'm short, fat, and proud of that. Are we proud of our fearfully and wonderfully made bodies that are from the Lord? If I'm going to boast, I want to boast in the Lord. For being a bear of very little brain, he's really good at using logic. He states, and the only reason for making a buzzing noise that I know of is because you're a bee, and the only reason for being a bee is to make honey, and the only reason for making honey is so I can eat it. And also with, must be somebody there, because somebody must have said nobody. Rabbit fakes a warm welcome to Pooh and says, "Oh, what a pleasant surprise." But do we do the same thing to the Lord? One of the characters says, "Are you stuck?" And the other one replies, "No, just resting." Be careful of the difference between resting and being stuck in something. That part of the story where they have to wait until Pooh Bear gets thin reminds me that sometimes we have to just wait. I like what they said in the story though. So both ends waited to get thin again. One is stuck on page 28 and the other is on page 30. So sometimes you're waiting for several things to fall into place, but all in God's timing and wonderful plan. Pooh asks for a small smackerel of honey to the gopher. Just one smackerel of Christ overflows a whole honey jar. Rabbit says to Pooh, "I'll taste it for you," so Pooh won't get fat. Sadly but truthfully, we can't taste Christ for other people. I love that scene where we have the narrator talking to Pooh. And so we come to the next chapter in which, but I haven't finished yet. But Pooh, you're in the next chapter. Oh, what happens to me? Well, let's turn the page and find out. And so let's, dear friends, turn the page and find out what happens to us with Christ as the writer of our story. Pooh says, "It's Wednesday. Oh, I ought to wish everyone a happy Wednesday." And so we ought to be the same with trouble. Oh, it's trouble. Christ uses all things for good. I ought to be thankful. I ought to wish everyone a happy troubles used for good day. I wrote a Christian version of Tigger's song. The wonderful thing about God is his wonderful unfailing love. The wonderful thing about God is his unending agape love. His love is very just and has justice for the pure, for hell is real and so is sin, so the pure will be revenged. And I know it sounds a little dark, but so can truth and reality be. I didn't want to write a song about God's love without also including discipline, because though it hurts, it's very, very important and shows a lot of love towards his children. There's this scene with these two characters. Did I say I was hungry? I don't think so. Oh, then I'll say it. I'm hungry. Are we telling and sharing with others that we're hungry? Are we filling each other up and pouring into others? The song about the woozles. That one part. If honey's what you covet, you'll find that they love it because they guzzle up the thing that you prize. And so does the world. That's why. Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust destroys and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Matthew 6:19-21. ESV. Rabbit's trying to unbounce Tigger. But to unbounce Tigger, one just needs simple communication. Then Tigger overbounces and then overthinks and overcorrects himself by saying he'll never bounce again. Rabbit is, of course, pleased by this, but then everyone agrees that they like bouncy Tigger instead. So Rabbit, with sadness, agrees too. And then everybody bounces. It's a compromise of sorts. I like that part where the narrator says, "Pooh, as usual, had a little something along to sustain himself. Do we have something along with us to sustain ourselves with? Do we meditate on truth?" There's this part where Pooh and Rabbit are talking to each other. "What's the good of that?" "Well, you see, we keep on looking for home, but we keep on finding this pit. So I just thought that if we looked for this pit, we might find home." "Well, I don't see much sense in that." "True, but there is only one way to heaven, y'all, and it's the narrow path. Sometimes it doesn't feel like we're really on the right path to heaven because it doesn't feel heavenly, but it doesn't mean that we are on the wrong path. It's supposed to get bumpy. The Lord promises that we will actually see trials and tribulations. I like that part where the narrator says, "Sorry, Pooh, but you know, all stories have an ending, you know," because it reminds me that when you're a Christian, this ending is really just the prequel to the real story that will go on for eternity. That beautiful scene between Pooh Bear and Christopher Robin, where he says, "What do you like doing best in the world?" "What I like doing best is me going to visit you," and you saying, "How about a smackerel of honey?" I like that too. Do we say I like spending time with you too, Lord? And so here's the ending to our story. What would it have been like for the characters if they had perfectly loved each other? Rabbit would have communicated perfectly with Tigger about his bouncing, wouldn't have lied, would have been fine with Pooh wanting or communicating well about not wanting him to stay, and setting boundaries. Tigger would have been politely responsive to Rabbit. Pooh wouldn't have inconvenienced Rabbit. Eeyore would speak out of love, not depression. Owl wouldn't ramble, but only speak in love. Roo would have helped Tigger down the tree. Kanga maybe would have seen the immaturity in Tigger and wouldn't let Roo hang out with him. But we don't have this perfect love. At least not yet, because we haven't been made perfect in Christ, who is God, who is love. This lack of love is sin against God. It's serious business and needs reconciliation. The only way to do that is to ask to be forgiven of sins and to have a relationship with God. TTFN, ta-ta for now.